All right, great. Good evening. Welcome everyone to today's Skill Edge session, where we talk to the expert on one of the topics in finance. And this is about half an hour session that we have planned. My name is Shailendra Marathe. I am a co-founder and acting CFO at Skill Edge 4.0 EduTech Private Limited. Skill Edge is focused on making the graduates and postgraduates day one job ready in various segments, like in getting sales careers, finance careers, analytics careers, etc. So today we are fortunate to have with us CA Chandrasekhar More, who happens to be a very old friend of mine. He is an expert in many aspects, but one of them includes the project finance, right? So I know him, somebody who has been arranging funds, since at least 3 decades for various projects and across various kind of institutions. So I thought the students and the practitioners also will benefit from his experience in the project financing segment. So the topic of today's discussion is trends and opportunities in project finance. And I'll just start with the basics. So as I said, Chandrasekhar Shekhar, he's a chartered accountant as well as company secretary, and he's a graduate of Poddar College, where I also graduated from. But Shekhar, can you maybe briefly introduce yourself in about 2 minutes for the benefit of our audience?
Yeah, I graduated from Poddar College, as you rightly said that. I'm completed my chartered accountant and company secretary. Immediately after completion of chartered accountant, I started my practice. I was practicing in the corporate law because I was a company secretary, and I had a good exposure till 1992 when till the Harshad Mehta scam was there. I was handling public issue matters, listing of shares, and I was registered to share transfer agent, registered to issues. I was category 2 consultant, registered SEBI category 2 consultant. Then after Harshad Mehta scam, then the whole scenario has changed. Then simultaneously I was working I was doing my practice also. So I started my practice in the corporate law as well as the corporate finance. In most of the cases, company used to ask me how to raise the funds. So that was a very good opportunity for me to start with the corporate finance. So since 1992, I am in the field of project finances. Majorly project finance, when we say it's a project finance, there are two things in finances, like the established company and are going for the additional loans, and a new venture going for the additional loans. So I am handling both the things.
Great. So thanks for the introduction, Shekhar. So I think, so we know you are there for approximately 30 years now in this field of project finance. So if you look at, let's say a period of 30 years back, right? Let's say 92, 95, 97 kind of a time frame, and where we are today, right? So this decade, let's say starting 2020, 21, 22. What changes have you seen in the field, right?
So there are a lot of changes. Whenever we talk about the financing of any project, that means it's a detailed assessment of the project. Initially, the public sector, I handle the public sector banking. So in public sector bank, initially it was very easy to get the loan. Only thing, we should have a minimum data of project finance, project detail, promoters details, and the collateral security. Later on, due to NPAs, piling up the NPAs in the public sector bank, then the assessment process has been changed overnight. It's been evaluated. Every stage the assessment has been changed now. So as of today, we can say that the project financing, handling a project will be a difficult task as of today, as it was very easy 10, 15 years back.
All right. So what I understand is the assessment of the project has become more thorough, right? So
yes,
more thorough.
It's a detailed assessment.
Correct. You can't just put up, something on the paper and go to a bank and expect.
Yeah, correct. Initially, we used to have a project detail for 10, 15, running into 5 to 10 page. Now it's a DPR, and other than DPR, we should have a promoter's background check. Everything is there.
Yeah.
And new concept has come. Credit rating has come. All accounts in excess of 5 crore, you should have an external credit rating. Plus, CIBIL report has come into the picture. Initially, CIBIL report was not that online. As of today, the CIBIL report is online. At least 1 or 2 months credits, it gets reflected in 1 month's time. So now you cannot escape. Initially, there was a scam. You put up a paper in 10 different banks at a simultaneously, you used to get a sanction. And those loans were reported in your CIBIL after 6 months. By the time the bank has already lost control over the promoters like this.
Correct. Yeah. I remember, I think mainly you had to put up something in Lotus, that time it was Lotus.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
create the basic financials and
Yeah, absolutely.
that's what required. Right. So today, if you compare to that time, I think the world of banking and finance has also changed. We had ICICI. I remember, we were going to MSFC, GSFC, right? Those were the institutions which were mainly putting up project finance, ICICI, IDBI, etc. So today, what are the main sources of finance for any project, right? Maybe we can talk of small, medium, large kind of projects. Where do they go for funding?
See, I will always suggest to have a project finance, we should go public sector banking. See,
Okay.
Initially there were 3 institutions, IFCI, ICICI, and Industrial Finance by IDBI. There was 3 institutions handling the project finance. Now those institutions has been demerged and amalgamated, and public sector bank has come into those project financing work. So the object of the banking, public sector banking in India is like that now. What is the purpose of this loan? Then only they'll give the project finance. But in most of the foreign banks and private sector banks, they will not entertain you project finance. Only public sector bank will entertain you for the public project finance.
All right. And how about the state finance institutions which were there, like MPSC, GSFC, right? They were there, CIDCO, they were there in a big way now. Are they there?
See, in the project finance, there are 2 things. One is that retail and is a corporate. Retail finance pertains to, when you have a security and income eligibility, then you can go ahead with the retail financing. But retail finance, the purpose, even if you use that loan for your business purpose, it is difficult for us to convince my income tax people that this loan was used for this purpose. So I will focus on the corporate finance. So corporate finance is a very good field as such. Now the assessment is totally different. And corporate finance, all major banking, private sector bank, NBFC bank, they are not into corporate finance. They are only into retail lending. Any schemes you take, it turns out to be the mortgage loan against property. And there is a LTV concept which was initially recognized only by private sector bank, because they are working with the people who are having a background, who are established business for last 3 years, and they have a security. Then they will finance percentage of security, like 50%, 60%. Maximum they can go up to 80 to 90% of security. So it turns out to be the loan against property. But public sector banks, they see your project, they see the promoters, and security do play a good role in this financing. But the coverage is not that much. But nowadays, the banks initially state that you should have at least 100% security, provided is 100% security coverage. Then they will consider the project. But it's not a thumb rule. You should always have 100%. We can start with 40%, 50% also, subject to your project and promoters.
Right. So I think that is the question I wanted to ask. So I think partly you have answered that. I think security is one key thing, and the promoters is the next key thing, right? So besides that, is there anything that the banks look into when they assess the borrower? So security, promoters, that I could get so far from you.
See, the first thing, bank will definitely ask for what is the project, what is the object of the project. Project, that means you will be going for the term loan and as well as working capital also. So first, your project has to be good. There has to be a market. Then the second concept, what we will see, who are the promoters, what is their financial background, what is their experience, how much they are contributing in this project. And third is market and security. That's all, nothing else.
All right. So these are the three key things. Now, when you prepare a typical project proposal, let's say it's a slightly bigger proposal, let's say 50 crores, 100 crores, right? Not very, very big. So in that case, typically, what does the proposal or the report contain, right? I've got partial idea from what you have said, right? But how does it look now in terms of the presentation? What kind of data you put in there? What kind of sources you add, right? How does the project report for these kind of?
Whenever a new client approaches me, I try to understand what is the project first, and we make an information memorandum, like short 2 to 3 pages of the details of the project and what is their requirement. So first, initially, we prepare an information memorandum. Then we discuss with the bank. We try to get the green signal at that stage. At that stage, green signal means it's a project is finance. Then only the procedure will follow. Then the assessment will follow, the credit rating and the inquiries that will follow. So initially, we have to prepare a short note on your project. I'm talking about the public sector bank.
All right. So typically, you're saying it's a 3-4 page kind of information memorandum. That
exactly,
right?
exactly.
So it doesn't have the full-fledged details like in terms of the market, the opportunity.
No, not necessarily. We can always say no. See, all those points will be covered in my information memorandum, but a very short, brief note will be there, like marketability. Okay. I'll say my product is what is the utility of my product, and if I have orders on hand, I will definitely say orders on hand, inquiry on hand. So some short of if any tie-up is there, we'll mention the tie-up. So that gives me the summary of glossary of my project to get a green signal, initial signal. Like we can always say that it's in principle sanction. We'll get at that stage.
So you follow basically a two-step process. But then after that, do you prepare a detailed project report and does it have the financials? Okay. Yes. So what does that contain? I mean, that was my question actually.
Detailed project report, definitely we talk about what is the industry as such. What is my product? Is it a manufacturing? Is it trading? Then manufacturing, how are we going to everything? It's a full assessment of the project. I will talk about the product. I'll talk about the promoters. I'll talk about the financials, and we have to convince the bank in that period the project is financially viable and technically sustainable. Financial viable, yes, we can always, all those workings will be supported by my inquiries and everything is there. Market report, short note. Sometimes bank may ask for the market report. It's not necessary that they should have, because bank do have their research team. Every bank has a research team. Whatever the data we are submitting, they will cross-check this data with their data research team. So now the detailed project report on market definitely is not required as much. Everything is available with the bank.
All right. So I think in that sense, there is definitely a change, right? So, yes. All right. And now let's say now we sort of train. I myself teach in some of the schools, colleges, etc. So if there are any freshers coming in this field, right now you are a very experienced person. So typically, MBAs, commerce graduates, they will be interested in getting into this field. Maybe they will work with a bank or a financial institutions, or some of them might want to start consulting on their own, as an example also, right? Or they might join a company which is coming up with a project and they want to, prepare this project report and get the entire credit assessment, etc. done. So what is the kind of a scope that exists today for somebody who's relatively a fresher, right? Maybe a graduate, postgraduate, or maybe up to 2 or 3 years of experience. I'll still call them fresher, right? Judges is cutting their teeth in this particular field. So what is the kind of a scope there? I mean, is this kind of a career that they should look for? And then how they should develop their skills, where they should join, right? So what is your advice to them?
See, lot of scope is in this field. Every banker needs a professional to handle this type of project, because bank is loaded with the work, and for if they do every assessment at their side, then the work will not be happening. They have also have a target. Ultimately, they have to manage their own funds also. So bank is always looking out for good project. Now, what is the good project? That we have to see what is the good project. We have to study that project. Whenever you are making any project report, I will suggest the man or student that you please try to understand the product as such. We have to do homework. Now, let's say if banking, we have to think whether I am planning, if I want to lend this project, what will I see in that project? Everything we have to study. So homework should be there. Bank will definitely welcome chartered accountant or a professional to submit all documents in a proper format and study, which becomes very easy for them to do assessment. So this field is very lucrative field, and even this is as far as bank is concerned. Now the client, there are so many clients, they don't know how to present the data, how to approach the bank. They always have a fear that the bank will finance me or not. They are not aware of those various schemes of government of India. There are so many schemes, so many subsidies. Those schemes are not aware. They are not aware. So we have to understand what are the schemes available. We have to go to a bank site. If you have good relation with the bank, definitely they will share their various schemes are there. We have to understand those schemes, and accordingly we can market those schemes also, because bank has a target. There is a lot of pressure from government also, because government is also pushing their policies to this bank. like Mudra loan, Kishore loans, all those loans are there. Unless we understand what is the scheme. Now there is a good scheme for Swachh Bharat area. There are also very good schemes are giving. Government of India is giving subsidy. Everything is available, but most of the promoters are not aware. And what happens? All those schemes are being used by big corporates, and those corporates, they will never allow you to know under this. So its best thing is to understand the bank's policy, government policy, do some homework, and then approach the client. And if you can, you can always do a marketing in this case also.
Right. So that's where the freshers have the scope, right? If they study all these things,
Exactly. They have to
they can
study
educate
first.
the client and put up a good proposal in front of the client.
Correct. Yeah.
And they're helping both in that process, right?
Exactly. No, ultimately, we are working as a mediator only.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. Now, so I mean, I think the last question that I have for you is, now having been in this field for so long and you know what is happening today, right? You're dealing with the bankers and the entrepreneurs day in and day out. What major changes do you see happening in next few years, maybe next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? What's coming up in project finance? What do you see are the new things that might happen, right? So which kind of projects might come, which kind of new lenders might come, what might they look at, right? Do you have any point of view or any sort of sight on that?
See, for this purpose, now we have to understand what is government's policy, budget. Now government of India is going make in India. So government wants everything to be manufactured in India. So manufacturing industry, whatever it is manufacturing, whether from peanut to yellow plate, we have to concentrate on that. Manufacturing will definitely have a very big role in this. Government is sponsoring most of the small scale industries, medium sized industries. Now the definition has been changed. So up to 250 crore has been considered as a small scale industry, and all those benefits given by government of India, it will be available to this type of companies and units. So I think for next 2 to 5 years, manufacturing unit will definitely sustain. There is a lot of scope. And whenever you are having an industrial units, let's say in Maharashtra, we have a MIDC. We have to approach to MIDC small units. We have to understand what is their problem, how are they sustaining themselves, and we have to consult them that okay, now you are borrowing for X rate, we'll give you a cheaper rate. You are under finance, you are over finance. That type of consultancy in project finance is always required. Ultimately, bank is going to finance you. That means bank becomes a partner, and then unless you make a profit, bank you cannot make a payment of interest. There is no repayment of loans on timely basis. So that consultancy is also required at the time, on a right time and timely consultancy.
Great, thanks. So I think one key thing you mentioned is I think manufacturing is going to be the focus area, right? So
yes.
And under various, I think Make in India, and I think even defense is getting a lot of attention. So I think those are the industries that somebody should look at. And I think the project finance will happen in very big way. So getting some knowledge of those industries and how they work will be something which is
there is a lot of scope for making India.
Advantage for those who are starting. Great. So I think thanks a lot. So thanks, Shekhar. I think, these are very basic questions, but, even for me, there is a lot of learning in it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a practitioner and you know these things happening, right? So how banks work, how private banks work, etc., etc. And so I think thanks a lot for those insights.
Thanks, Shailesh. Thanks for calling me.
Yes, absolutely. They're very, very useful, I'm very sure. And thanks for spending your time with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.